Is President Duterte going to be arrested by the International Criminal Court? Well, according to what we're seeing now on Twitter, there is a warrant of arrest for Duterte. And a lot of posts over the past hours and minutes saying that there is going to be a warrant of arrest for Duterte. But for those rooting for the arrest of this outspoken and trash talking president of the Philippines, a third world country, don't be excited because this is quite complicated. And for those supporting this president, the so-called DDS or Duterte fanatics, don't worry because again, this is quite a complicated case. Question is this fake news? Well, we're gonna find out later on. By the way, if you're watching this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And this is the Uncensored Asian Vlog. Alright, so as you can see, I did some kind of Googling in order to verify if there is some kind of development to the news last year that Duterte is gonna face possible arrest by the ICC. So let's do some Googling to search if this is a latest information. And we need to make sure that this is actually a legit case because we've been faced with a lot of fake news since the lockdown. Alright, so let's do some searches on Google to find out. So over the past week is what we're gonna check. So alright, Reddit. Reddit is simply discussing or posting. If we're gonna go to Reddit, they're simply posting an article from last year from Vera Files. Okay, they're basically pointing to one source, which is an article from Vera Files. The Vera Files is an investigative entity in the Philippines. All right. So again, it's linking an article from verafiles.org. So as we can see on Twitter, there's basically no new development as to the pending case of Duterte with the International Criminal Court. And I think that the only reason why this case is being drummed up by the Duterte critics is because of the passage of the anti-terror bill to some kind of give comfort to Duterte critics that hey, there's going to be justice by the end of the year. Duterte is going to be arrested. But like I said earlier, this is a complicated issue. Let's get to the main source or the primary, I'm not going to say main, but the one of the primary sources that is being linked to this news or story. All right. So again, this is an article from the Vera Files, and as you can see here, this was published last year, December 15, 2019 to be exact. So this is the article that they're linking on Twitter and on Reddit as well. So do not be fooled. Again, this is totally not a fake news story. This is a real story, but there's no new interest going on as we speak. No developments as we speak. They're simply linking the story published by Vera Files last year. Alright, as you can see here, it was posted on December 15 of 2019. So let's read the lead story. So according to this story, the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court may wrap up its preliminary probe on President Duterte's drug war sooner than expected. So it's still a preliminary examination or investigation, and it's not gonna end yet. So once this PE or preliminary examination has ended, that's the only time that they can issue a warrant of arrest against Duterte. And if the ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda finds enough evidence and following proceedings, at the earliest, formal charges for international crimes may be brought, and an arrest warrant issued against President Duterte and key officials of his deadly Tokhang campaign by the end of next year. So this is now the next year that this article is referring to. So why did I say this issue is kind of complicated? Well, what makes it complicated is that last year, by March, if I'm not mistaken, the president or the Philippines as a whole withdrew from the ICC. Okay, we ended our relationship as a party to the International Criminal Court. And here's a story showing that the Philippines officially left the ICC from the New York Times. Okay, the Philippines officially withdraw from the ICC on Sunday. So this was posted on March 17th. So it was March of last year, after the country's highest court declined to overrule President Rodrigo Duterte's decision to leave the world's only permanent war crimes tribunal. Alright, so as we've said earlier, all the stories about the president of the Philippines facing possible charges, we don't know yet what particular crime President Rodrigo Duterte and his minions allegedly committed. But as we all know, there are four crimes that any national or entity of state party, including national or entities or groups of non-state parties, could commit. So these are the four specific crimes. One is war crime, and then crimes against humanity, genocide, and the crime of aggression. My guess is that the crime that the ICC or the complainants are accusing President Duterte of committing is the crimes against humanity and the genocide. All right, it could be either of the two or both of them, because he neither committed war crimes nor crime of aggression. So going back to the story, since we started reading the article, the question is this gonna be a real deal? All right, there's a caveat here, okay, to continue, but it will really all depend on evidence showing that the Philippine authorities failed to discharge its duty under the principle of complementarity to investigate and prosecute those behind thousands of alleged extra-legal killings connected to the drug war. So that's a caveat. So it all depends as to there is some kind of omission, commission, or failure to discharge the expected duty of the government to prosecute or to investigate those behind those killings. Okay, so according to Vinsoda, they're quoting Vinsoda, during the 2020, the office will aim to finalize the preliminary investigation or examination in order to enable the prosecutor to reach a decision on whether to seek authorization to open an investigation into the situation in the Philippines. So we don't know what will happen by the end of the year. It could be that there's going to be an indictment or charge to be filed against the president of the Philippines. We don't know yet. Okay, it all depends on the evidence that the accusers of Philippine President Duterte are going to present to the court. It all boils down to whether the accusers of the president are going to present strong and enough evidence to support their claim that President Duterte is guilty of the crime he's being charged with. We don't know yet. We don't have the evidence right now, but for those rooting for his charging and indictment and arrest, well, pray that those accusers, those filing the complaint, are going to present unassailable evidence. All right, but again, it's complicated because the Philippines withdraw from the ICC last year, and here comes the question of jurisdiction. Okay, jurisdiction is what is going to make this case very complicated. The question is, now that we are no longer a state party to the ICC, can the ICC investigate and arrest President Duterte? There are conflicting opinions as to this issue of jurisdiction. Of course, the Malacanang Palace or the legal representatives of the president are claiming that no, the ICC does not have any jurisdiction at all. In fact, this is what this article is showing. So I think we have President's lawyer, Salvador Panelo. He's my former professor in a law school in Manila. Right, according to this story, December 9. So remember, the Verifiles article was posted on December 15. So a few days prior to this publication, the Malacanang Palace issued a statement disputing the claims that President Duterte could be arrested after the ICC finishes its preliminary examination on the debts tied to his war on illegal drugs. So let's get to the gist of this article. So here's Panelo speaking to the press or in a radio interview. Even if they issue a warrant, who will enforce? This made me chuckle because, well, it's gonna be ICC is gonna enforce the law. Despite the fact that we're no longer party to the ICC, doesn't mean that it's going to cease or stop them from arresting the president should they decide to charge him. All right. And there are a lot of ways for them to arrest the president. One thing that the ICC can do is that they're gonna gain cooperation from other state parties. That is one thing that the ICC can do. It's gonna rely on the cooperation of other state parties. So when it comes to the member or state parties, there are 123 countries that ratified the Rome Statute that established the ICC in 2002, and we became member or party to the ICC in 2011. So that's like 9 years after the establishment or creation of this global body. So these are the 123 countries, and we're no longer part of this. It's under P. Let me just check. Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Poland, Portugal. So under the letter P, Philippines is no longer part of the body because again, the president, well, definitely it's going to be the president. The whole country, the Philippine government decided to terminate its relationship with the ICC, and United States is also not a party to the ICC, just to let you know. And we're going to use the case of the United States to somehow discuss as to whether the ICC has jurisdiction to indict, charge, and arrest the Philippine president, Mr. Duterte. So as to the issue of jurisdiction, the ICC can investigate these crimes. Again, the war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and the crime of aggression if they're alleged to have been committed either by a national of a state party. Now, that's the president of the Philippines, President Duterte, and his officials or minions, and two, on the territory of the state party, which is the Philippines. So, in the case of the United States, a complaint or a case was filed with the ICC charging the United States and its officials for war crimes in Afghanistan. Okay, so despite the fact that the U.S. is not a member or a party to the ICC, the crimes were committed in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, as we can see here under the member states or parties, is part of the ICC. So here's letter A, Afghanistan. There is an issue of jurisdiction here despite the fact that the United States is not party to the ICC. They can indict and charge and investigate U.S. officials in Afghanistan. But again, it becomes complicated when it comes to the enforcement of the charging, or when it comes to investigation. They need to go to the United States, and what the US did, okay, when ICC officials or lawyers or investigators tried to go to the United States, they were denied visa by the US government. So applying this case of the US with the case of Duterte, they can, what I mean by they is that the Duterte government can deny investigators, ICC investigators, visa. They can also declare them persona non grata. And I think Duterte even threatened last year that they're gonna face, these investigators are gonna face cases here in the Philippines as well. In terms of strategy, I think, okay, first strategy is that yes, they can indict and investigate the president and his minions once they go to a member country or a party state. Okay, for example, let's find some states in Asia that the Philippine president and his officials may visit in the future. All right, so, well, I'm looking for Singapore here. Is Singapore part of the ICC? I don't see Singapore, so Singapore is not a member state. China is also not part of the ICC. So how about Malaysia? It's also not part of it. So many countries in Asia are not part of the ICC. How about Indonesia? So I'm looking for ASEAN member countries, basically Indonesia. So just in case the president's going to South Korea, okay, Republic of Korea, Japan, let's just say Malta, I don't know, it's very unlikely, Switzerland, or any of these 123 countries. And if any of these countries are going to cooperate with the ICC, then they can really enforce their authority or jurisdiction. And another way to get Duterte is when we have a new government and he's already out of Malacanang, or once he's no longer the president of this country, because there are pending cases that the ICC is investigating. In fact, they are pending for years already. So here are the suspects at large. Okay, Connie. Okay, if you're familiar with Connie, he's facing crimes against humanity for his war crimes in Uganda. All right, Vincent Ori. These are all African, nationals. Vincent Odi, arrest warrant issued on July 8, 2005. I don't know why they're able to get some cooperation from his own government and other governments to arrest him. Ali Muhammad Ali. So here are the personalities or nationals facing arrests by the ICC. So once we have a new government that's not under the influence of Duterte, probably an opposition, that's the only way the ICC can arrest the President Duterte, after he's done with being president of this country. All right. By the time that we have a new government that's an opposition government, no, not pro Duterte, the new president or the new government can then reestablish our relationship. We can become, a party, state party to the ICC again. Okay, or it can be done as well through acceptance. Okay, and the acceptance should be ad hoc and voluntary. Okay, I don't know how it's gonna be done, but could be done by the president, the new president of the country, or the Congress. I don't know. I'm not a legal expert when it comes to international relations. I'm simply relying on the established data and facts on this issue. So, yeah, President Duterte, once there's gonna be enough evidence to charge him, he can be arrested either while he's in office or after he's done being president, after he left, the Malacanang Palace, and a new opposition government is in charge with our government affairs. All right. So that's all I have today. This is again Uncensored Asian Vlog, and have a good day to all of you.